Yo, drop a like right now if you've ever gotten a win in Warzone. I know there's a lot of you out there. All right, what is what's happening? How's everybody doing today? My name is Chuck, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, I want to be going through and showing you guys my top 5 most overpowered classes for you guys to use here in Modern Warfare. AKA, I want to show you guys how to be able to create the best possible class setup. I'm going to show you guys why the attachments are so good, you know, how they function, and everything of the sort. You guys are not going to have any questions after this video. Hey, but make sure if you haven't already, slap a like on it, subscribe, those notifications turn on, comment down below, and yeah, let's do this. All right, so the first thing here is we have the Grau 5.56. This is an absolutely incredible assault rifle, and I have to put this in here in a top 5 because, I mean, it's just oh so good. So the first thing we're gonna go ahead and do here is go into the muzzle category, and we have a couple of different options in here that we should take a look at. So we basically want to avoid anything that's not a suppressor. So what I would suggest doing is that I'm gonna run the monolithic suppressor as my first attachment, but if you guys do not happen to have the monolithic suppressor, you should run the tactical suppressor. Make sure to stay away from the lightweight because it does decrease your damage range, and that is the last thing you want to have happen. So go ahead and throw on the monolithic suppressor as your first attachment for the Grau 5.56, and you guys are going to absolutely love this. I mean, this is a fantastic suppressor, probably the best one to use in the entirety of the game. It just really is that good. Next up in here, we have a couple of different options for our barrel because it's going to be our second attachment. So we have the ZLR Drifter, we have the Tempest 26.4 Archangel, the XRK Zen Mark II, and the FSS 20.8 Nexus, and of course down there here is the 11.8 Squall. But basically this one I never really ever use it. I have it like on a variant or something, but I never really do the challenges to go ahead and like actually unlock it. Anyways, getting back to this, we have a couple of ones that we're gonna X out of here, which is the Drifter barrel, and of course then the Zen Mark II. I mean, the Zen Mark II, it's like it's okay, but it basically is outclassed. It's like the bottom of, you know, the bunch in terms of damage range and bullet velocity. It does the least out of the other 3, aka the Nexus and the 26.4 Archangel. I would say, venture to say that because it actually got nerfed, the Grau did get nerfed at one point in time, that I used to always run the Nexus barrel, but I would suggest running the Archangel barrel as your go-to barrel in multiplayer and in Warzone. It's just absolutely phenomenal, and you need to run this on the Grau 5.56. I don't actually go, you know, and run any other barrel on this right now. It's just, I don't find it to be any bit beneficial to not have this barrel on here. Next up, we're in here to the underbarrel section, and there's, of course, a couple of different options here. So we have, you know, obviously the Commando foregrip. There's, you know, the Merc, you know, there's your Cronin Shark 2, which is specific to this gun. There's the Ranger and the Operator, but honestly, we're going to keep it very, very simple, and we're just going to go with the Commando foregrip here on this weapon. It is just super easy to use. I mean, you don't necessarily want to slow yourself down too much, and because this gun doesn't have a ton of recoil, we don't necessarily have to have something like, you know, a Merc foregrip or a Ranger. I'd say to stay away from something like, you know, the Cronin Shark 2. I don't really believe it to be that good, but the Commando foregrip is going to be all you ever really need with this gun, so go ahead and slap this bad boy on there. You're going to thank me later. Next up here, we're actually going to the laser category because I found the laser to be absolutely phenomenal in the Grau 5.56. So we have the options here of the 1MW laser, the 5MW laser, of course, then the TAC laser. So we can see this does actually give us, you know, the hip fire accuracy. This gives us our hip fire accuracy and our sprint to fire speed. And this gives me my aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and aim locking steadiness. If I was actually going to play some Warzone, what I would suggest running is actually using the TAC laser. But because I like to play a lot of multiplayer, what I'm actually going to go for is the hip fire accuracy and the sprint to fire speed, just because I'm going to be running around a lot more closer quarters engagements, and I find that this is actually just going to be a little bit better than running something like the TAC laser. It is absolutely phenomenal. You guys can definitely swap it out, you know, if you really want to, but, you know, 5MW for multi and then the TAC laser for Warzone, you guys really can't go wrong with either of these. And frankly, last but definitely not least, I mean, we have the option here to have an extended clip, and so this has 30 rounds by default. So we have the option here for a 50-round magazine, a 60-round magazine, and I'm just not going to, you know, sugarcoat it. You guys know I'm a 60-round magazine kind of guy. I always run a 60-round magazine on my guns just because I prefer to do that. I think the 60-round is much more beneficial to have, you know, than a 50-round. It just feels better to me. I don't know, sometimes I feel like a bit naked when I happen to have a 50-round, but, you know, that 60-round, you know, it is what it is. I love it, and this is going to be my Grau 5.56 loadout. You guys are definitely going to have to try this out here, multi Warzone. This thing works phenomenal in both. Very, very good setup. All right, so now we're jumping in here to the MP5 as our second gun here in the top 5. I can't possibly put in a top 5 without throwing in the MP5. You know, it's just necessarily that good. Well, it actually just genuinely is that good. So we're actually going to go in here. So we have the option to go to the muzzle or the barrel. So if we go to the muzzle, we can go down in here and throw on the monolithic suppressor, or we can go in here to the barrel and throw on the monolithic integral. There's a lot of debate, you know, on what is indeed better, but what I've actually been rolling with here recently happens to be the monolithic integral suppressor. suppressor, and I just happen to like this for multiplayer and for Warzone. I just happen to find it's better, and I think I've seen a couple of videos on it showcasing that this version of the suppressor for the MP5 is indeed better. It's not by very, very much, so you won't heavily notice it, but it's, you know, still a little bit, so why not get a little bit more benefit out of this? So run the monolithic integral on your MP5. It is very, very good. Next up in here on the underbarrel section, we have the option for the commando, the merc, the ranger, the tactical, and of course then the operator. I always say to stay away from the operator and the tactical. We don't really ever need those. The ranger is actually pretty good on this gun. The merc is really good on this gun. And the commando is actually, you know, pretty decent on this gun. But if I was actually give you guys, you know, my top, you know, attachment to use, that's gonna have to be the merc foregrip. This is actually the foregrip that all the you know, the pro players use when they use the MP5, and there's, you know, a good reason, because it happens to be, you know, the best underbarrel attachment to run on this gun. It's just that good. So go ahead, throw the merc foregrip on there. Next up here, we do have our ammunition. So we have a 45 round magazine, and we have a 10mm auto 30 round magazine. And there's a lot of debate that goes up in the air about, you know, do you like the 30 round? Do you like the 45 round? Because, you know, this has more damage and range, but this, you know, gives you more magazine capacity. I would honestly just venture to say that the 45 round is just going to be better for you in all situations. Genuinely speaking, like, it's really going to be the best option for you. You can definitely run this. We like to run this, you know, earlier on in the game's life cycle. I'm talking about like me and my friends here, but we ended up kind of basically swapping over to the 45 round mags. It's just a lot more beneficial for multiplayer and for Warzone. It's just very, very good, and I would suggest only running this. Don't mess with that 30 round. It's not really worth it. Now we're in here on the rear grip section, so I just want a little bit more speed and mobility out of my gun here. So we're going to see a couple different options. We have the rubberized grip tape, which is that recoil control. We have the granulated, which is that aiming stability, aim walking steadiness, and then we have our staple grip tape, which is our ADS speed and our sprint to fire speed, aka this is what we're going to go with here, because this is going to be the best for the MP5. We want the most amount of mobility possible. We can control the recoil very, very easily. We don't necessarily need anything else that's going to help with that. We just want more speed out of our weapons. So we're going to go ahead and throw this on here as our fourth attachment. And for the last thing, we're actually going to throw on the MP5, because we don't necessarily need anything else. What I actually want to do is throw on a perk, and that perk is actually going to go ahead and be Sleight of Hand. And the reason I'm running Sleight of Hand is just because the MP5 functions beautifully with 4 attachments and then 1 perk onto it. Granted, you can go into like something like the stock category and throw on a stock if you really, really want to, but I find that having, you know, Sleight of Hand on here makes it incredibly beneficial for rushing around in multiplayer, just getting in people's spawns. You don't really have to deal with the, you know, a slower reload. It's just really awesome, and that is the reason I like running this on my MP5. You guys should definitely go ahead and try this out. Beast MP5 class setup. Go ahead and use it. I mean, it's really, really good. So now it's time to take a look at a bit of a DLC weapon here that came in recently that is actually, you know, it did get nerfed because it was incredibly broken, but it's still incredibly good, and you guys need to use this gun, aka the AS Val. This is a fantastic gun. So let's actually jump into this. And actually, before I should say that this does have an integrated suppressor. That's why you should see there's no muzzle category. So we're gonna jump straight in here to the barrel. So we basically have like kind of one built-in attachment. So we have the options here for the VLK 105mm SOF. There's the Stavel SOF, and there's the VLK 200mm OSA. And basically what we want out of this is more range and stuff. So we're basically not going to go with the VLK SOVA. We're not going to go with the Stavel SOF. What we're going to do is go with the VLK 200mm OSA, because this gives us our damage range and bullet velocity. Unfortunately, this doesn't give us our trifecta, including that recoil control, but it is what it is. I mean, this VLK barrel is still very, very good. I would suggest running this on your gun. Now we're in here to the underbarrel section, and so we have the options of the Merc foregrip, the bipod for whatever reason. I guess you can make it into a sniper. We have the Ranger foregrip, the Commando, there's the Operator, and then the Cronin Shark 2, which used to be kind of specific to the Grau 5.56, but this is kind of like a different variation of the Cronin Shark 2. Anyways, we don't really need this one, just to keep it a stack and a half with you guys. We're not going to use the Cronin. There's no reason to ever use the Operator, and of course, there's not really as much of a reason to use the Merc unless you want to make this into a big, you know, real SMG type of build. But anyways, what we're going to go ahead and do is we have the option basically to use the Ranger or the Commando, and it comes down to a lot of personal preference. But for me, I've actually found that the Ranger foregrip on this gun handles the recoil the absolute best, because this thing does have a high tendency to, you know, have a decent amount of recoil, and so I want to use that Ranger foregrip to kind of mitigate that, and that is the reason I think this is your best underbarrel attachment. As I was talking about this weapon being nerfed left, if we actually go down here to the SPP 10 round magazine, this basically makes it into a semi-auto sniper rifle type, you know, a weapon, but this actually ended up allowing you to shoot through quite literally every single obstacle in the map with no sort of, you know, damage fall off. I mean, you could literally beam people on the other side of the map. It was absolutely ridiculous. I'm sure you guys have probably seen a video or something out there on that. So, but we're not going to go ahead and use this. I mean, we're going to go and use the 30 round magazine because this thing comes with 20 round stock as a fully automatic weapon, which is absolutely abysmal, and we need more than, you know, that 20 rounds. We need 30 rounds. I would love it if this gun had like a 40 round, maybe a 45 or something like that. You know, I'm not gonna get crazy and ask for like a 50 or 60, but you know, 30 rounds is still a little bit less than I'd prefer. I just never run 30 on any of my guns, but hey, it is what it is. This is the ammunition attachment we're gonna go with. Now we're in here for the rear grip section, and we're still trying to get a little bit more mobility out of this thing because this is a more or less like a hybrid between an SMG and an AR. It's not really an SMG, it's not really an AR. It's kind of like your like middle ground in between. So it's not going to particularly excel at super long range, but also can excel fairly close because it's got such a high fire rate. Thus, it has why it has so much recoil. So we need a little bit more mobility out of this gun. So we have the granulated, which gives the aim locking steadiness. This gives us our aim down seat sprint to fire speed, and this gives us that recoil control. We don't necessarily need that. What we're actually going for here is, of course, like I said, the mobility. So we're going to go with that stipple grip tape, and this is going to be our fourth attachment here for the AS Val. Absolute banger attachment. It's just really good. And now for our final attachment, we're actually going to go in here to the stock category, and I like switching out between the stock and a laser, but we're actually going to go with the stock here. So we have the, you know, the VLK Vintas, which is, you know, basically your sniper rifle type stock. There's the FSS International, maybe the Gen 4 GRU. Then we have the Stavel 6P30 Skeleton, and then we have the VLK Strelok. I don't really know what these names are, but anyways, we're basically trying to get a little bit more mobility out of this gun once again. So that's why we're going to end up going with the Stavel 6P30 Skeleton stock. This gives me that aim walking movement speed, that aim down sight speed, which is gonna more or less make this gun to perform like very, very good at close to medium range, which is what this gun definitely excels in. So you want to have the attachments to make this gun excel in, you know, its desired, you know, sort of category with, you know, close to medium. It's not gonna excel at like stupid long range. That's just not what this gun is built for, unless you throw in like the 10 round mag or something like that. So this is gonna be the stock we're to go with here. This is a very, very good AS Val setup. I love using this gun. Definitely kind of one of my more favorite DLC guns that come to the game here in recent time. I recently made a video about this gun here in specific, but the P90 just genuinely does not get enough love, and it is such a good gun. I mean, it's actually really, really fun to use. So let's actually hop into this. The first thing here is we have our muzzle, and we're just going to go through here and add on the monolithic suppressor because that is the best suppressor to have. We need the most amount of, you know, damage range possible out of our gun, and of course, this being an SMG, we don't have as much as ARs, so we want to make sure we have that. You guys can definitely, like I say, run the tactical suppressor or the monolithic. It comes down to a little bit personal preference, but I would say if you have the monolithic unlocked, run the monolithic. I mean, I don't really find any reason to switch out of using this. It just really doesn't make any sense. So we're going to go and throw this on here. For our barrel, we don't necessarily have a lot of option. We basically have two options here. So we have the Forged Tack Retribution, which is our damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control, basically our heavy hitting barrel. Then we have the FSS 10.6 Pro, which is our damage range and bullet velocity, but no recoil control. And what I would actually venture to say is that what you're going to go with here is the Forged Tack Retribution, as this is going to be the best barrel to run on your P90, basically no matter what. We only have two options here, but this is going to be the one that you guys are going to want to run on all your guns. Like, there's no reason for you to ever use the FSS 10.6 Pro. It just really doesn't. There's no benefit to using it. Seriously, just throw this on here. So now we're in here into the underbarrel category, and because the P90 doesn't have regular foregrips, it's just got a bunch of different weird type of grip tapes. And what we're trying to get out of this gun is more mobility, because this isn't a very high mobility type of gun. So we have the granulated, we have the stippled, and we have the rubberized, and more or less, I mean, we can't get a lot of, like, you know, benefit out of mobility here, and we don't want to slow ourselves down too much. But what we're actually trying to get here is just a little bit with, you know, just a little bit more recoil control, and I want to go for as much plus as possible. So we're gonna go here with the stippled grip tape, aka our recoil control and our aiming stability. This is gonna keep you laser pointed on, you know, on point. And the stippled grip tape on here is absolutely fantastic in the underbarrel category. I always go for the most amount of pluses possible here, aka we have two of these things, so we're gonna slap this bad boy. Now into our other sort of grips, we have, you know, once again, you know, our stippled grip tape, our granulated, and our rubberized, and of course, like I said, we're going for more mobility. So we're gonna go with the stippled grip tape, as this is our aim down sight speed, our sprint to fire speed. It doesn't quite do the same thing on the, the underbarrel section of the gun, but it does the same thing as it does on all the rest of the guns here on the rear grip. So we're going to go with our stipple grip tape. This is just going to help us be more mobile overall. I like doing this. I like having this on basically almost all of my guns. If I ever go into a rear grip tape, this is going to be the one I choose. And now in here for our stock, we just want to finish this thing off to be the absolute most beast, strafing SMG possible. So we have the Forge Tac CQB Comb, which is our aim down sight speed. We have our fly strap, which is our sprint and fire speed, aim walking movement speed. And then of course have the FSS Heavy Stock Pro, which I don't really ever get why you'd run this. It just doesn't make any sense. But what we're going to go with here is the fly strap, because this is our sprint to fire speed, our aim walking movement speed, and this is going to make you strafe around. You're just going to be going absolutely crazy with it. And so this is going to be our attachment number 5. Super good. This is a very solid P90 build for you guys. Definitely go try this out. I mean, it's an absolute slapper. And I couldn't possibly leave out the Kilo here in the top 5, so we're gonna go ahead and make an absolute banger updated class setup for you guys here on this gun. So we actually have the option to go here to the muzzle, which is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and slap on the monolithic suppressor with this gun, just because I'm not gonna explain this. I've already gone through and talked about it quite a bit. That the mono is just gonna be your ultimate suppressor to run on this gun. It's just, the absolute best. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this bad boy on there. Next up in here, we're gonna go over to the barrel section. So we have a couple of different options. We have the Singard Arms 16.6 SOCOM with a 19.8 Prowler, and then we have the Singard Arms Whisper. This is your built-in monolithic suppressor here, which does give you your sound suppression, bullet velocity, but what it does not do is give you plus damage range, which is what we want out of this gun here. So we're actually going to go ahead and choose between these two here. And basically what this ends up coming down to be is, what is your personal preference? Because this is the 16.6 SOCOM, which gives us the trifecta, but what this actually does down here is give us more of the trifecta. Of course, it hinders you just slightly, but I mean, that's not really much of a big deal. And I would recommend running the 19.8 Prowler on your Kilo 141 at all points in time, no matter if it's multiplayer or Warzone. I think this is just ultimately the best barrel to throw on your Kilo. Go ahead and throw this bad boy on there. I love running this. Next up in here on the underbarrel section, we can really just keep this pretty simple. We don't have to go and mess with all the rest of the shenanigans, like especially not any of this, the 12 gauge depth beat or the M203s. Nobody ever runs these. I don't even know why these are like really attachments. But anyways, we're gonna keep it very simple. Go with the Commando foregrip. This is gonna be very solid. You guys are gonna like this. I really like running the Commando foregrip on my Kilo 141. There's no reason to choose basically anything else, because this gun doesn't have that much recoil to begin with, so there's no reason for you to, run a different type of foregrip. So just throw on the Commando just so you have that stabilization, but you're not penalizing yourself too much in the, the movement speed category. Now we have the ammunition, and we have a very interesting thing here. So we can go with the 100 round drum mag, and you guys could definitely rock out with this thing. This thing is absolutely crazy. I haven't ran the 100 round drum mag in a minute. What I always end up going with here is the 60 round magazine, just because, like, if it's between 50 and 60, your boy is choosing 60. So I'm gonna go ahead and here and choose the 60 round magazine as my 4th attachment. This is just ultimately what I feel is the best for multiplayer and for Warzone. I don't like switching my guns too much between, going between different game modes, and I like to have stuff very similar just so I can, have a good feel for the weapon and how it performs. So, I mean, that's just kind of, my take on that. But, go ahead and run the 60. I think this is very beneficial. I mean, you're going to put all those bullets down range, and they're going to be on target. So why not have an extra 10 of them instead of, having 50? Why not have 60? And for the last thing, we're actually going here to the stock category, and we're going to just get the most mobility out of this weapon possible. So I'm guessing you guys can probably tell where I'm going to go, and that's just going to go down to the no stock category right here. And this gives us our movement speed, our aim down sight speed. We're going to make this an absolute banger rushing around Kilo setup. You got a lot of range, you got your recoil control, and also you have a lot of movement speed, which is, fantastic. So, I mean, go ahead and run this bad boy on there. This is a banger Kilo setup. You guys are going to have to try this out. I've been using this the past few days, and I absolutely love it. That's all I got for you guys here within today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, slap a like on it, subscribe, those notifications turned on. Make sure you guys comment down in the comment section below, and go check out any of these other videos here up on screen, so I greatly appreciate it. With that being said, I'll see you guys back here again tomorrow with the end of a brand new video. Just remember, don't triple captain, I'll be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.